Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is
Fine,
week
fine.
13 of our weekly class and Halaqa for Quran believers. We always open these meetings with Al-Fatiha. Again, I am Gregory Walid Kavalik, and it is Islam Awakened hosting these meetings technically, but I step out of the way. We have some good people running this class. Farouk
Thanks.
Peru and Dr. Aisha Musa. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina al-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. Class leaders, please take it over.
Let's go. Farouk?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Hey.
Peace be upon you, and welcome to Q40 week 13. So this is literally a quarter of a year, 13 weeks, right? Out of 52, that's a quarter. I'm happy to say that it's been very productive, at least from my personal learning. I mean, I've heard some feedback saying that you guys have found it rather difficult to keep up with. So I would really appreciate if you could forward your questions in the group. Perhaps we can talk about it after the session is over as well. So today we'll be talking about Iman. Iman is usually translated as faith. I would prefer security because I think the feeling of being secure is prevalent in all forms of the word. And you know, when you think about it, what is faith anyway? Faith is to be secure in something. I have faith in God, meaning I am secure that God will do us, you know, whatever you think he will, or whatever you think he would do. And there is a derived meaning, which is belief. You know, again, it has something to do with security. It could be on a rational basis, or it could be on an intuitive basis. That depends on the context, I would say. So the words are iman, usually translated as faith. Yu'min is the action, and mu'min is the person himself, the doer of the iman. So these are the three main forms. This word actually appears.
Farouk, you put it on mute by accident. Farouk?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Sorry. So this word iman and its derivatives actually appear before the word Islam even. So I would say that kind of tells us the priorities within the process, what we need in order to become peaceful, as it were, you know, to be secure in our convictions for Allah. And as usual, I like to look at the first occurrences of the word, and that is chapter 2, verse 3. So, I mean, chapter 1 is 7 verses long. So, chapter 2, to be put in verse 3, will tell you it's the priority of this word. And the verse goes, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Those who believe or are secure with the unseen, and they establish the connection, and from what we have provided them, they spend. So you can see there that there is a certain action which is entailed by those who believe in the unseen. So it's not like you believe and that's it. No, you believe and then you establish the connection, and From there, whatever God provides you, you spend. So there is a certain influence this particular action has upon your disposition. And I think that's very crucial. We will see that as a prevalent feature within the uses of Iman within the text. So, this passage, it has another occurrence of the word, and this time it is in the people themselves. It's called mu'min. This is chapter 2, verse 8, and it says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَقُولُ آمَنَّا. From the people, there are those who say, Amanna, we believe. Billah wal yawmil wa bil yawmil akhir, in Allah and in the last day.
Mm,
Wa ma hum bimu'minin, but they are not of the believers. Now, how do we know this? We can't see into people's hearts,
no.
right? But but if we look at the context, it will tell us how exactly we can determine their behavior. See if we see verse verse 9, it talks about their the states of their soul, and
Mhm.
their souls are in a kind of a delusion,
Mm,
and within their hearts are a disease, and God increases their disease. And this bit really got me. It says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. And when it is said to them, don't do mischief in the land, قَالُوا, they said, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ, we are only good doers. So this kind of struck me, right?
yeah.
This shows me that the mu'min behavior are people who do not do mischief in the land. Hence, they are working for security. And uncoincidentally, Allah Himself is Al Mu'min. That's chapter 59, verse. I always forget the number to this. Sorry about this. Um, Allah is Al Mu'min in chapter 59, verse 23. He is As Salam Al Mu'min. So, what
Mhm.
does that mean, Al Mu'min? I believe it means Allah is a source of security for us.
The security giver, yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding. That's
And about the just I want to just butt in a little bit, Farouk. Uh the marid in people's heart. Hanan had asked a question a while ago, and I had answered it in the group chat. And it's very important that we all know that to get over this marid, you need to practice. You need to read, you need to study, and you need to practice. And practice what you understand from the ayah. I'll post that note in the group chat. But yeah, Farouk or Dr. Aisha and anybody else wants to continue?
I'm not quite finished yet, you know.
Oh,
So
okay, Farouk, go ahead. Go ahead.
may I just finish?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So then this chapter, Baqarah has plenty of imans, but it also rather rarely has two listings or two enumerations of what is ideal for our iman. And that is in chapter 2, verse 177 and chapter 2, verse 285. So the 177 is a very famous verse. It says, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. It is not righteousness that you turn your faces towards the east or west. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. So it is rather righteousness for you to be secure or to believe in Allah, the last day, the malaika, usually translated as angels, the book, and the prophets. So this is a description of the ideal form of Iman. And I believe that the actions which are following this list, also in the verse, we don't have time, maybe you can read it for yourself. They also help contribute to that Iman list. So it's almost like Iman is a checklist which you undertake in your life through your actions. It is definitely not something confessional, where you take a pledge and say, I believe in this and this and this, and therefore I'm a believer. That's not how it works, in my opinion. For me, it is really about an action. Um, the last verse in chapter 2 with the Iman listing is verse 285. It says, Amana Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi. The Rasul believes in what was descended to him from his Lord. Wal mu'minun. And so do the believers. Kullun amana billahi. Each believe in Allah wa malaikatihi, and the malaika usually translated as angels, wa kutubihi, and the writs, wa rusulihi, and the messengers. La nufarriqu bayna ahadim min rasulih, and they do not separate between the messengers. Wa qalu sami'na wa ata'na, and they said, we hear and we obey. غفرانك ربنا, your protection, our Lord. وإليك المصير, and it is to you we return. So I thought that this, it's uncoincidental that it appears at the end of the chapter in which the ideal society, the Ummatan Wasatan, verse 143, is made. And this is when we have that ideal relationship with Allah. And if you were to read the context of this, verse 284 and verse 286 both centralize the nafs, or the soul. And as we know, the soul is the center of change. So when you change your soul, you develop your soul, that's when change occurs. And verse 285 tells you how to do it. I mean, this particular passage, I love it. Whenever I arrive at this part of the Quran, I just love it so much.
Oh.
Very beautiful. And finally, before the discussion, if you look at chapter 4, verse 136, there is another list of imans, or convictions. And this is the one connected to a call. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O ye who have believed, aminu billah, believe in Allah, wa rasulihi, and his messenger, wal kitab alladhi nazzala ala rasulih, and the book which was descended onto his messenger, wal kitab alladhi anzala min qabl, and the book which was descended before, wa may yakfur billah wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhir, and those who conceal with Allah and the angels and the writs and the messengers and the last day, فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا بَعِيدًا. He is on a path of compounded misguidance. So I think this is the opposite of verse 285. Verse 285 gives you the assertions. Verse 136 gives you the negations, and I think it's really brilliant. Thank you very much, and I will take a short break. Thank you.
Yeah. Khadija, you have your hand up. You want to talk to us?
I do. Thank you, Brother Farouk, for putting the notes together. It was really nice reading that with you. One of my questions is in 2:177, it says, "It is not righteous to turn your face to the west or to the east." What do you all believe, or what do you all think? What is that action?
Okay, so I believe, and then I'll let everyone else go. I believe that's not leaning, okay, politically, it could mean not leaning too much towards the left and not leaning too much towards the right. Ritualistically, it could mean, pointing your face to Jerusalem or to Mecca or this and that, right? but it's mainly you take a middle path. You know, you don't go too extreme with anything. You don't go too extreme in anything. Not ritualistically, not literalistically, not metaphorically, not politically, not, you know, chemically. You could say, you know, even chemically, even physically. Balance. You want to have that balance. You don't want to, you know, tip the scale too much to the right or the left. But yes, I will let me lower my hand. Thanks. Dr. Musa, yes.
Yeah. What strikes me, and what has been striking me as we have these discussions, is that Islam and Iman and Amana and Aslama are form for verbs in Arabic, causative. That means, and a mu'min or a Muslim is the doer of the action. And these, the form for verb is explicitly causative in Arabic. It means that the doer of the action brings about the state of the form one. So salam, peace, security, health, lack of hostility, wholeness. The Muslim is the one who brings that state into existence. Amana in the form one, trust, safety, security. A mu'min is the one who brings that state of security into existence. And the form for verb is the most, over 500 times in the Qur'an, this root is used in the form for verb. 200 to more than 200 times the form for active participle, right? 45 times iman, the verbal noun, the action of bringing about, like Islam is the action of bringing about salam, right? It is, as Farouk said, all about action. And the grammar of the Arabic makes that absolutely clear. That a mu'min and a Muslim are both active participles. This is not passive. And the other thing about this root, it has the word belief in English. As I've said in the past, when we have semantic fields that overlap, not all of the semantic field in the target language matches the semantic field in the source language. Belief, you can believe anything in English, right? If you want to believe that the moon is made of green cheese, which is something they used to say when I was a kid, people, I don't know where it comes from, it's some kind of joke or whatever. You can believe anything. Has nothing to do with the truth value of what you believe. But Amana has an automatic assumption of the truth value of whatever you're believing in. So belief only has a tiny overlap with the semantic field of the Arabic. The semantic field of the English only has a small overlap with the Arabic semantic field of Amana. And so for a long time, that's why I translate Amana as those who acknowledge the truth, right? As opposed to kafara, those who deny or cover the truth. And I see a lot of room there for a psychological understanding, because if you think in psychology, denial and acknowledgement, right? And so there are layers, so many layers to the Quran. So you can understand it simply as believing in the truth, but it's also acknowledging that you are secure, that you are certain of the truth value of it, that there is not doubt about it. And based on that, you bring that kind of security into the world. And that's what I'm really interested in these days, is the fact that these are form for verbs. And that really is something I think super important to understand. And I will repeat over and over, you do not need Arabic to be guided. God can guide anybody. You don't even need to be able to read the Quran to be guided. You could be completely illiterate and God can still guide you.
That's true.
But when you're talking about the meaning of the Arabic language, to make those claims, you really do need to see what the language is doing. Because the more I read the Quran, the more I see that God has used very explicitly specific grammatical forms, specific structures of phrases and sentences. This goes to Brother Waleed, that video you shared with me about Hebrew and the reading of the beginning of Genesis. The fact that the grammar functions in a very specific way, and Muslims often ignore that in addressing the Quran, right? And so translators will follow each other, you know, because it sounds like a reasonably good translation, and yeah, maybe it's okay. But then there are these very specific uses that I look at and I just go, subhanallah. That's very exact. And Muhammad has said in the past, you know, he thinks the Quran means exactly what it said. And I agree with that. As someone who studies language and linguistics, the Quran means exactly what it said. Not the form 2 verb, the form 4 verb, not the form 1, the form, you know. Those are very explicit choices that I see God making. And we don't always know why he did it. But then again, God is not, you know, we don't get to question why God did it. We get to look at what God did.
Yeah.
So, subhanallah, action is very, very important here.
Action is definitely important. Hanan, you had your hand up, and then I'm going to pass it off to Miss Linda.
I don't know even how I raised my hands, but
oh, I'm sorry. I saw
wanna,
her.
But I want to say something too. Thank you, Dr. Aisha. You did a great job explaining the ayah. And also, I would like to tell you, Khadija, if you continue reading the ayah, you will see exactly what Allah wants to explain from Amana. Because he said, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين وآتى المال على حبه ذوي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل والسائلين وفي الرقاب وأقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس أولئك الذين صدقوا وأولئك هم المتقون. So Allah give you the examples of why of how to do iman.
My question was, what are we doing when we turn our faces towards the east or the west? What is that going on?
It's more like
looking for God, and is God telling us that we don't need to look for God? We have to focus on ourselves.
Okay, you can see it that way too, Khadija. Yeah.
Or I'm wondering.
Okay, Brother Waleed, Farouk, Miss Linda.
There is another ayah that says God is the Lord of the East and the West. I actually did a little article that's in the Journal of Islamic and Muslim Studies on beyond East and West. And that article was talking about, because we talk about Islam and the West. If you see in the popular discourse, political discourse, it's the West and Islam. So whatever people thought about these ayahs in the past, we have a specific way we can use them today to overcome that. So politically, it can be used that way. But the Quran also explicitly states in another ayah that Allah is the Lord of the East and the West. And whichever way you turn, you find the wajh Allah, the presence or the face of God. And so when I read this ayah about righteousness not being turned to east or west, that's what I think. Allah is the Lord of the East and the West, and whichever way you turn, you find Allah. And so what you just said at the end, Khadija, is that's how I understand it. Okay. Is that I don't have to look around to see God. Yeah. God is everywhere. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that's 55:17.
Surah Rahman. Rabbul Mashriqaini wa Rabbul Maghribain. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Brother Waleed.
Just that this verse always reminds me of centuries later, a man by the name of Muhammad Abdu came along with a now famous quote. I went to the West and I found Islam, but no Muslims. I came back to the East and I found Muslims, but no Islam. That's worth thinking about too.
Does anyone know where he
I love
actually
that.
said that? I've heard Muslims quote this for decades. I have never been able to find where he actually said it. I will buy coffee for anyone who can. This is a promise I made decades ago to my students. Anyone who can show me where he actually said it, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. I've heard it for decades. I have not been able to verify that he actually said it, but Muslims use it all the time. Muslims who want to have, say we're not anti-Western because, yeah, this is very famous. Although we do need to think about this today because in the current political climate of the US,
Yeah.
they are actively setting up, and if you heard it in Stephen Miller's lecture at Charlie Kirk's funeral about Western civilization, and we are the builders, and you all, the rest of our enemies are nothing, and their enemies, that's us, right? So our fellow Americans see us, there is a large group of our fellow Americans who see us as the enemy in the East versus the West, because it's Islam versus the West. It happened during the Iranian crisis in the 70s. It happened at 9/11, and it's happening again today. And so we have these ayah that can help us with that as well.
Because we don't want to lean too much towards the left or too much towards the right, We want to find a way in the middle. I like Farouk. Like, Farouk is always in the middle. He will never lean towards the right or the left. In the 20 years that I've known my brother Farouk, he's just such a wonderful example of this, And
Come on, man. What the heck?
oh, Farouk, my brother, I love you. Okay. Yeah, heart.
I don't want to take us off into the weeds, but just in case nobody knows about it, there's an interesting storm, not a storm yet, but it's one that's brewing in Florida. Florida went out of their way to push voucher programs for schools. And the unspoken part of that was they wanted parents to be able to send their children to Christian schools and get paid back for it from taxpayer dollars. But you can't legally limit exactly what that kind of religious school can be. So now some parents of Muslim students are sending their Muslim children to Muslim schools and being paid by taxpayer dollars.
Wow.
And there's a certain political party in Florida saying, wait, that's not what we meant.
Something similar happened in Alabama too, and they were
oh, really?
like one of the first schools to apply for that program was a Muslim school. I think it was in Alabama as well. And then everybody was like, not schools. Yeah.
Miss Linda has a little story to share. She's like, I always thought presenting Islam and the West as dichotomous is rather strange, as Islam helped to create what we now see in the West. Yeah, do you want to explain that, Miss Linda?
There.
There you go.
Well, it's I'm not quite sure how to begin, but there are so many factors that we think of as being part of the West, like our medical system, hospitals, clinics, the structures of our universities. Many of these things came about during what is called the Dark Ages, as though that was some terrible time. But if you look into the history of the Dark Ages, it only had that name because it was detached from the influence of Rome. This was a name given to it for that reason, not because it was really dark. In fact, many of our major universities in Europe developed during the Dark Ages, and they developed to a large extent, at least in their structure and many elements of the university, because of people's contact, Europeans' contact with the Islamic world. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so.
Exactly. George Makdisi, I think it was George Makdisi that wrote on this. Our entire diploma system in the West is based on the system of Baghdad, from that when Muslims were the world empire. The whole idea of a teacher and a group of students, and the students studying, and the teacher giving them a certificate of completion that then qualified them to teach. That's called the ijaza in Arabic. And so the whole root of our Western education system is rooted in what's called the golden age of Islam, because Muslims there was Baghdad in the east, and Cordoba in the west. There was the Eastern Islamic Empire and the Western Islamic Empire, and those were the political powerhouse, especially the Eastern, especially Baghdad. And people came from all over the world, Europe, Asia, everybody came to Baghdad, right? This is the area that I study. This is why I have a D&D world based on Baghdad in this era, because Baghdad was the Bowash corridor of the world at that time. And Bowash corridor, Boston, education in the US, Washington, political power, and New York, economic power. That was Baghdad. Until the Mongols sacked it in 1258. But for several hundred years, that influenced everybody in the world. Everybody.
Wow. Thank y'all for sharing. Thank you, Miss Linda. Thank you, Dr. Aisha. Okay, Farouk, I know we have a lot more to go. But Sayed, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, Farouk, I'm going to pass it on to you.
All
Okay.
right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So just a small note with regards to what was just said. So Dr. Musa quoted the Lord of the East and the West. Hanan gave chapter 55, verse 17. So I took a bit of time to look it up. And the last three occurrences of Mashriq and Maghrib, so-called East and West, is with Rabbul, the Lord of the East and West. So chapter 55, verse 17 is the Lord of the two Easts, Rabbul Mashriqain wa Rabbul Maghribain, and the Lord of the two Wests. And then after that is in plural. فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِرَبُّ الْمَشَارِقِ وَالْمَغَارِبِ. So I swear by the Lord of the East in plural and the West in plural. And then finally in chapter 73 verse 9 it says Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghrib, the Lord of the East and West. So you have three states there. One is the singular state, one is the dual state, and the other one is the plural state, exactly like Arabic, if you ask me. And finally, the one in chapter 55, the ones with the two East and two West, it kind of matches with the fact that the chapter 55 is all about the dual personality. فَبِأَيِّ أَلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. So will you
both
both deny the favors of your Lord? So I think
will you both deny?
That would be worth exploring in the future.
Khadija, you had something to say? Sorry for.
Yeah, would it be kind of accurate? Of course, I did not study this, but would it be accurate to think that Lord of the two Easts and Lord of the two Wests, and things that don't necessarily exist on our planet Earth, would also relate to Rabb al-Alamin, the Lord of the worlds, so maybe other planets?
Multiverse, yeah.
Because where the two East and the two West, my human brain on Earth cannot process that right now.
So
at the moment, I can't either. I have to put on my esoteric hat there.
Yeah,
Khadija.
I love y'all
sorry.
so much. Y'all so cute.
Maybe our tinfoil hats is better.
Yes, indeed.
It's okay if there are things that we don't understand. We have limited perceptive abilities based on what we can observe. And somebody, I don't remember where I read this, but years ago I read something about, because of the way the earth rotates, and like the sun doesn't rise exactly in the east or exactly in the west, it kind of rotates throughout the year, right? Sometimes it's more, southerly or more northerly because of the tilt of the axis of the earth. There are all kinds of things that people can see in the Quran based on what they know about the nature of reality. And it's perfectly okay not to know exactly what God meant. Knowing that God means exactly what he says and says exactly what he means is a comfort to me, but I also am comfortable with my not knowing exactly what God means. It's enough for me to know that God means exactly what God says, right? And if I have the opportunity to see a little spark of that, if God opens a little bit of observation for me so I can say, aha, that just increases my faith. So this is just an opportunity for, in the future, some kind of observation to yet again prove to me that God knows exactly what God is doing and saying.
Yes, I agree.
Okay,
100%.
so to proceed, we look at the signs of a believer. So as I was saying, there is an entire science behind Iman and Yu'min and Mu'min, right? Um, so if we look at chapter 8, verses 2 to 4, it says, Innamal mu'minu alladhi, verily the believers are those who إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وُجِلَتْ قُلُوبَهُم. When Allah is mentioned, their hearts tremble. وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْ إِيمَانًا. And when His signs are rehearsed upon them, their iman or their conviction increases. وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. And upon their Lord they become reliant, or they trust upon their Lord. So again, here we are seeing actual signs. I would interpret these as physical signs because it talks about trembling. And I personally, I can see people who have experienced this, people who have had that kind of connection with God, and they are those who الذين يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. They are those who establish a connection, and with um, what we provided, they spend. It's exactly the same as chapter 2, verse 3. Same process occurs there. So we are seeing how the text coheres with itself, and thus, gives us a kind of an intratextuality, as you like, if you like. Finally, it says, "Ulaika humul mu'minuna haqqa." These are the believers with truth. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Khadija.
Can I? Khadija? Yeah.
I didn't say anything yet. I just had my hand up. You can continue.
Okay. Okay. Lahum darajatun inda rabbihim. For them are ranks and in the sight of their Lord, wa maghfiratun wa rizqun kareem, and the protection and an honorable sustenance. So we can see that Iman, it has a consequence to your action, and thus has a consequence to your state. It is not something theoretical. It is something which is metaphysical, manifesting into the physical. Next, we look at Iman into the heart, and that is in chapter 48, verse. Oh my gosh, I don't see it in my notes there.
Brother Farouk has 7 pages of
Yes.
notes. He's probably not going to get through it if we keep breaking out for discussion. So I recommend we write down our questions and then when he's all done, we ask? How does that sound for everybody?
Excellent
Because
suggestion.
he has
Thank
7
you,
pages.
Khadija.
He's still on page 3, and we have 15
Yeah.
minutes left.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, I'm looking at chapter 48, verse 4 now. It says, هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين. It is he who descended serenity into the hearts of those with conviction. The mu'min, the same word, right? ليزدادوا إيمانا مع إيمانهم. That he increases their conviction, he increases conviction alongside their conviction. So you can see what serenity does when Allah descends it. It actually increases your iman. So if iman can increase, it can also decrease. And that's where we look at chapter 4, verse 137, which says, Inna alladhina amanu, verily those who have believed, thumma kafaru, then concealed, thumma amanu, then believed, thumma kafaru, thumma azdadu kufran, then they increased in their concealment. I wouldn't prefer to translate as disbelief because it would be unjustifiably etymologically connected to iman. I prefer concealment because to me kafara means to conceal something, and that's the opposite of unconcealing and thus having conviction in something. And here Allah tells us that we can be convinced, and then we can be concealing, and then we can be convinced, and then we can be concealing. I mean, we can see that in ourselves, where we oscillate between the two states, and this is, I think, again, is back to what Dr. Musa was saying. It is all about our actions. How does the action figure into our state? So the next occurrence is Iman in the heart, as we've seen in chapter 48, verse 4, but also in chapter 49, after Allah talks about the creation of the people from one male and one female, chapter 49, verse 13, it then continues to a rather iconic verse. It says, قالت الأعراب, the A'rab say, آمنا, we believe. لم تؤمنوا, قل لم تؤمنوا, say you do not believe. ولكن قولوا أسلمنا, rather say we have submitted. وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. Iman has not yet entered your heart. You see? So how would Iman enter your heart? It says there, إِن تُطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. If you obey Allah and the Messenger, then He will diminish nothing of your deeds. So I think that's how we attain iman, by simply obeying God and the messenger. We can see the messenger's speeches within the Quran, and it tells you what to do. It's actually quite general and rather functional in the world, so to speak. The next verse says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. The believers are those who believe in Allah and the Messenger. ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. Then they do not doubt, and they struggle hard with their wealth and their lives in the way of Allah. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصَّادِقُونَ. They are those who are the truthful ones. So again, it is all really based on action, and Allah is showing us the pathway towards reaching this mu'minuna haqqa stage, the truthful believer kind of stage. Next, we come to I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not following my own suggestion. Sorry.
I don't know. Would you guys want me to stop here? I honestly, I don't mind either way, because it is fairly long. and we might actually lose some points along the way, you know. So I don't know how you would like me to proceed.
You do have a lot that we have to go through, and I probably can't. I'm hosting a dinner tonight. But what would you all like to do? Because I might have to leave soon.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. What would you all like to do? Hanan and Sayyid.
If you want my
Mundis,
vote, I'd say give this subject as it stands right now at most another 10 minutes and then some discussion, and then let's stay on this subject next week.
next week. Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be breaking up the syllabus and expanding out. I understand there's ripples from that, but actually diving into these subjects with some
Yeah.
depth, we can't just skip through them very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't. I agree.
I
Okay.
agree. These are all very deep subjects, and it's okay if we need to. Syllabi are only suggestions. I've written a lot of syllabi in my years. They're only suggestions. It's not valuable for the students if we run through it too fast. It's not valuable for any of us if we run through it too fast. I mean, it's always something is valuable, but if we slow it down, we will increase the value, I think.
Brother Farouk, where would you like to end today? What do you feel like is a good way to end so we can
Okay,
discuss your question?
right, okay. So basically, I have two more parts to this. I can summarize the parts for you. So I'm looking at the phrase "in kuntum mu'minin," if you are indeed believers. So for me, I interpret this phrase as God's criteria for the readers to see if they match up with His standards. That's one section. And the final section is where I go through some verses which have the call to those who have believed. So, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This has 89 occurrences within the text. Obviously, I can't go through all of them, but there are some which I do feel are pivotal to understand the characteristics of a believer. That's how I will proceed. But I'm just here to facilitate whatever you guys need. I'm up for doing that. You know.
I wonder if we did the call to the Amanu for next class so that we can process and kind of sit in the material from this class. Or
What about in kuntum mu'minin? Do you want that for next week as well, or?
what do you guys what would you guys like? Anybody?
If you're going to give me a vote, I would say any verse that tells me how to guarantee that I'm a believer, what actions I should take, those are the verses we should focus on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I concur.
Okay. So, Brother Farouk, maybe we could, or you could do that for us next week. So this week we'll simmer in what it is to be a believer, right? What God, what's the difference between a believer and a non-believer? So that next week we can figure, like, we'll get our orders, our commands. Is that
Okay.
realistic? I don't know.
So I'll do. You want me to proceed with in kuntum mu'minin now, or?
Yeah, I guess. There's nobody
Okay.
objecting? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
So there are 15 verses in which the phrase "in kuntum mu'minin" appears. So for me, "in kuntum mu'minin" it means if you are indeed believers. But the word "kuntum" it comes from the word "kaun," which implies the being or essence of something. It's not "in antum mu'minin." It's "in kuntum mu'minin." In antum would be if you are believers on a rather superficial level. But here, the iman has penetrated you. And when the iman has penetrated you, you become more amenable or more pliable to its principles. So verse 91, it says, when it is said to them, believe in what Allah has revealed, they say, we believe in what was revealed to us and deny that which is besides that, when it is the truth, verifying what they have. Say, why did you then kill Allah's prophets if you were indeed believers? So here we can see that the mu'mineen, if they are true in their essence, they will not neutralize the prophets of Allah. Now, what does this mean? This phrase, Anbiya Allah, this is unique in this, from this verse, is unique in the Quran. It's just not found anywhere else. I believe it means that these people are neutralizing, or they're just stopping these news bringers from coming forth, and that stops you from becoming a mu'min. When you are open to news, open to new information, maybe this kind of allows you to increase your iman. Then it talks about covenants. We made a covenant with you and raised a mountain over you. Take hold of what we have given you with firmness and be obedient. They said, we hear and disobey. And they were made to imbibe the calf. Literally, the word is drink, right? The drink into their hearts, the calf. And the calf, in my opinion, is symbolic for hastiness. They don't have the patience, they want everything right quick, and hence, that is they are failing. So it says, bad is what your belief bids you if you are indeed believers. So in the first two occurrences, God is telling you what will stop you from becoming mu'mineen, right? The killing of Allah's prophets and imbibing from the calf. So that's verse 91 and 93, very close. They're both like almost neighbors, if you like. I would look what comes in between. And that's where Allah talks about giving Moses the clarifications. I think it's quite, sorry, let me just have a look again. Verse 92, chapter 2, verse 92. Yeah, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَ الْمُوسَى بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ. Okay, so Musa came with the clarification, but then they took the calf after him. So they became wrongdoers. So here, Allah is telling you what these people did that stopped them from becoming mu'mineen. Then we come to verse 78, 278, which says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So it's a call, O ye who have believed, attaqallah, be mindful of Allah, وَذَارُوا مَا بَقِيَ مِنَ الرِّبَى, and give up what remains from the riba, if you are indeed mu'mineen. So becoming mu'mineen involves you actually going into the economic side of your life. It's not something religious and thus separated from your economic life. The personality Isa, he is very connected with this phrase, right? So if you go to chapter 3, verse 49, it says, we made, in brackets, Isa an apostle, a messenger to the children of Israel. I come to you with a sign from your Lord. I make out of dust in the form of a bird, then I breathe into it, it becomes a bird with Allah's permission, and I heal the blind and the lepers, and I bring the dead to life with Allah's permission. I inform you of what you eat and what you store in your houses. In this is a sign for you if you are mu'mineen. So the mu'mineen, they are experiences of these states, which Isa then brings forth. He also says to his disciples. So that's in chapter 5, verse 112. It says, when the disciples said, O Isa, son of Maryam, will your Lord consent to send us down food from heaven? He said, "Be careful of your duty to Allah if you are believers." So again, Isa and his followers, they are related deeply to this phrase. Um, and Musa is not unrelated to this phrase, but for him, it didn't pan out. All right. So if you look at chapter 5, verse 23, it says, "Two of the men who feared, upon both whom Allah had bestowed a favor, said, Enter upon them." In other words, enter the Holy Land by the gate, and when you have entered, you shall be victorious. And on Allah you should rely if you are indeed believers. Unfortunately, they did not. They were fasiqun, or rebellious. And that's mentioned in the two preceding verses. So Musa and Isa are connected to this phrase. Then we come to Shoaib. Shoaib is not mentioned a lot, but he is mentioned twice with this phrase. In chapter 7, verse 85, it says, "To Madian we sent their brother Shoaib. He said, O my people, serve Allah. You have no God besides Him. Clarifications have indeed come to you from your Lord. Therefore, give full measure and weight, and do not diminish to people their things, and do not make mischief in the land after its reform. That is better for you if you are indeed believers." Chapter 7, verse 85. And then chapter 11, verse 86, it says, "What remains with Allah is better for you if you are believers, and I am not a keeper over you." So both times, Shu'aib uses this phrase. Why? I think it's because Shu'aib is the most explicitly connected with economics. And finally, the phrase occurs in chapter 57, verse 8, and says, "What reason have you that you should not believe in Allah?" And the apostle calls you that you may believe in your Lord. Indeed, He has made a covenant for you if you are believers. So that's chapter 57, verse 8. And if you recall, this connects back to verse 91 and verse 93 from chapter 2, which mentions number one, Iman, and number two, Mithaq, the covenant. So Allah opens with Iman and Mithaq, He closes with Iman and Mithaq when it comes to this phrase, if you are indeed believers. So I'll stop there for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Well, Zishan is no longer with us, so perhaps I'll be the host for the rest of the session until I have to leave, and then somebody can take over. Thank you, Brother Farouk.
No problem.
403. Good job. You did it.
Thank you.
I had a question. I'm kind of worried that I forgot it now because I didn't write it down the way I said to write it down. But I think it was to do with the believers. Oh, does somebody else have a question? I'll go look for my question. Or a statement they would like to make.
What is the most important action that I, as a believer, can take? Can we distill that out of what we've learned today? I'm being selfish. I want to know.
I say obeying Allah and the Messenger there, Waleed. That's rather crucial. Yeah.
Sister?
Mine's my I remember my question, so I wasn't gonna answer your question. I'm sorry. Or should I ask my question now? Yeah.
Waleed, did you get my response? Just in case you.
You hit it on the head. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So my question was when the Bedouins or the Arab said that we believed, and then they were told, you do not believe, say you have submitted instead. I always thought that to submit meant to really give up my ego, give up even my body, and be in service of God. And that's what I took from submitting, is that I'm prostrating, I'm bowing down to something, a being higher than myself. And that belief, anyway, obviously the verses tell me otherwise. But if somebody can help me process that a little better, because it seems like submitting is a bigger task than just to believe something. Yes.
I think submitting, although it's very common as the translation, again, this is an area where the semantic fields don't really completely overlap. Because again, aslama is causative. You're bringing about the state of salam, right? The state of peace and wholeness and wellness and security through your actions, right?
Yeah.
And the distinction I see between aslama as a verb of the thing you do, and amana, a thing you do, is that aslama is you're working to bring about that wholeness, that lack of hostility, all the things that are involved in salam. And Amana is to bring about the security because you're absolutely secure and convinced in your understand the best of your understanding of your relationship with the divine. And I think that second one, that certainty is what you're growing toward, whereas you can make that action of trying to bring about wholeness and wellness and lack of hostility and peace and all those things that salam has. But I understand what you're talking about, because that's kind of the simplistic way it's presented to Muslims. You give everything up to God and you wait for God to give you belief, is kind of a general way that people have understood it. So I understand where you're coming from, because that's definitely a traditional view of what that meaning is. But there's so much more to it than that. But Waleed had his hand up, so let's see what he has to contribute.
I just wanted to throw in the very irreverent common Western phrase that covers this idea. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I think I said that out loud too
That's
before.
an oversimplification, and I understand that it's an oversimplification. But if an absolute newcomer came into the mosque and didn't know anything about Islam but wanted to join us, we'd tell them, okay, just join our prayers. This is how it's done. And after they've done that for a few days and they've hung around and they've talked to us, the other ideas and the atmosphere of Islam will soak into that newcomer if they are sincere about understanding what it is we're about. And the physical prayer is a reminder to me that I'm submitting to God in body. The fact that I'm carving out that time of the day, I'm submitting my mind to Allah. And the habit that's becoming ingrained in me is where I'm submitting my spirit, mind, body, and spirit. That's what I believe prayer does for us. Regular salat. It's an anchor that we carry through our day and reminds us, mind, body, and soul. So that is the submission part. Now, how do we turn that into belief? I don't believe that's going to be an answer that anybody's going to have exactly the same as the next person. Each one of us is going to come to that inner belief in our relationship with Allah. And it is unique because He can do that. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Thank you.
And my opinion is that's okay. And if we look at Surah 98, Ayah 5, that talks about Din al-Qayyimah, and that chapter is all about how the people of the book came to differ after knowledge came to them. And it's what they were commanded to do was to be sincere to God, to establish prayer and pay charity, right? So that is the basis of it, right? To be hunafa, to be sincerely leaning toward God, mukhlis lahu a deen, right? Making the deen sincere to God through and doing the salat and the zakat. And if different people understand that differently, that's okay. Because again, 548 says, لِكُلِّ جَعَلْنَ مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَجًا. We have given each among you, whether it's each community or each individual, a shir'ah, a law, وَمِنْهَج, a way of doing things. And we talked about sectarianism a little bit in the group chat recently. And my understanding of sectarianism is that one group says, our way of doing it is the only way. And if you don't do it the way we do it, you're wrong. God loves us, not you. And I think the 548 tells us that doesn't matter. As long as it's mukhlis lillah, this is my view. As long as how you understand salat and zakat and you make it mukhlis lillah, it's not my business how you do it. If you do 5 times a day salat and you do it as reading the Quran, or you do 3 times a day salat, bowing and prostrating, you make it sincerely to Allah. And that's your connection with Allah, and how I do my connection with Allah. And as a disabled person, you know, people will say, well, how do you pray? I'm not going to describe that to someone, because how my body functions is not how your body functions. You may stand and bow and prostrate. Maybe I can't stand up. That's not your business, right? What does it mean to me to stand devoutly in front of God if my 2 legs don't allow me to do that? Is not your business, right? And I'm not talking to you guys, but anybody, right? And so I don't care how you do it, and you shouldn't care how I do it. And if we're going to advise each other, we should advise each other to be sincerely for Allah.
Khadija, just if you pursue, by the way, before I proceed, what Dr. Musa was saying about sectarianism in chapter 5, verse 48, I wrote uncoincidentally, in chapter 5, verse 18 is the opposite behavior, where 2 groups of people say, we are the beloved of Allah and his sons, or the opposite, we are the sons of Allah and his beloved. So Allah says, ask them, why does Allah punish you for your sins? So sectarianism is not cool, you know.
Yeah.
So just to follow up, I think we were reading chapter 49, verses 14 and 15. I would start from verse 9, which talks about 2 parties of the mu'mineen. So I've always asked myself, how is it, if mu'min here refers to something which is internal, how do you know that it's 2 mu'mineen who are fighting? So here I would think that mu'mineen is people who proceed in a certain action pathway. And that's why it says, to stop them from fighting, it says, فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَهُمَا, make reconciliation between them. So if you notice, the mu'mineen from chapter 2, verse 9 to chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, it says they don't engage in fasad, and they say we are good doers, but they are deluding themselves. In this case, they actually are meant to do islah, or reconciliation between them. So if that's the case, I would say aslamna here are the people at peace, and Amana there are the people working towards that state of security. That's my humble opinion on this. Thank you, Khadija.
I cannot hear anything.
I don't think anyone is speaking. Where's Isha?
Are we close to being able to call it a day?
I'm okay, bro. I mean, you
You're
guys want
muted.
to share?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay too. And Zishan was not feeling well, so he may have stepped away.
Okay.
All right, I will call this the end of the class. Since there was a motion and a second, treat it like a board meeting. Love all of you, and I hope to see you again next week. We can continue to talk, but I'm bringing an end to the class recording. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.